Welcome to segment 4 of the Crazy Justin Doan life. Previously on our last 3 segments, we discussed Justin's life with his parents and how he coped with their personal problems. So now, Justin's been living with his grandparents for about 2-3 years at this point, and could you tell us a little about that?
Yeah, let's say it's about 1999, 2000. I'm going to a private school for kids who have ADHD because I was having some trouble in public schools, and my teachers, they they wanted to, they wanted me out of there.
They wanted to put you in order.
Yeah, because I was still wild, and they didn't know why until they figured out I had ADHD, and I still needed more help because I was failing a lot of my classes in regular schools. So they put me in this school for ADHD kids. Not a good school at all. I didn't learn anything. The teachers basically said, do what you want, it's whatever. We had recess about 3 or 4 times a day. It was insane. I didn't really learn anything, so I had fun, learned a lot of cool things that weren't about school, but definitely affected me when I later left and went to back to public schools because I needed help, but we'll talk about that later, so yeah.
What else do you want to talk about?
How were living arrangements with your grandma and grandpa?
How were the living arrangements with your grandma and grandpa?
They had been fine, up until like late 1999, 2000, where we had lost our house that my grandma and grandpa lived in for a long, long time.
Where was this house at?
It was in Akron, Goodyear Heights, and we lost it to the bank, so we had to move. Me and Grandma moved in with her sister, which was my aunt, and my grandpa moved in with his sister. So we were kind of separated, you know what I'm saying? Grandpa would go to work, and we moved into the Falls. I was still going into school in Akron, so there was no buses that went out there. So I didn't get on a bus. The school had purchased taxi time for me, which is weird. I went to school on a taxi, got picked up by a taxi, the Falls set it up, and they sent me to my school, and it was weird arriving at school in a taxi. People thought, oh, look at this guy, he's poor or something like that.
Were you in contact with your mom and dad at all?
My dad, at this point, wasn't allowed to see him, not at all. He had done too much stuff wrong to my grandparents. He had called them so many names, he had threatened them so many times, I wasn't allowed to have contact with him. My mom, yes, I had a lot of contact with her. I was seeing her frequently and stuff like that, and she would come over and visit sometimes, and I would go see her, sometimes. So, yeah.
Regarding the year 2003, what was going on for a majority of the year?
2003, I don't know, just a lot of stuff. I hadn't talked to my dad in a long time, probably 2 or 3 years it had been since I had talked to my dad.
Did that make you sad?
I don't know, I was 13 at the time. Really, I wasn't thinking about it, you know what I'm saying? It just was like, it's whatever. I really didn't feel the need or want to talk to him. But I had a younger brother, and I didn't know it. I didn't know it until I forget how I figured it out, but my dad had got with another girl, and I had another brother, and he was 2 at that time in 2003, and I had not known him and never seen him, never talked to him, or anything like that.
You never heard anything about it?
Never heard anything about it, and I first met him at a funeral. I met my little brother, who was 2 years old, at a funeral.
What funeral?
It was my grandmother's... No, it wasn't my grandmother's mother. It was my dad's dad. That's when I saw my dad for the first time in like 2 or 3 years. That I met my little brother for the first time, and that was something special. He didn't feel like my little brother because he's just another kid. I didn't know about him until
At that point, he's just your brother from another mother.
Pretty much. But my grandma and grandpa still wouldn't let me go see them and see him, so I was without seeing my little brother for a while. For a long time.
So that was a majority of 2003. Could you tell us about 2004?
2004, a big year. I made my way to public schools for the first time in 4 years. I started out at a middle school, 8th grade. Hard adjustment because everybody is getting ready to go into high school the next year, and they all know each other, and I didn't know anybody. And it was hard.
Tell me a good memory that sticks out to you from 2004.
Well, there's a lot of good memories. One that I can remember the most was definitely my mom lived in an apartment in Barberton. I would go see her every weekend, every single weekend at this point. You know, because we were at our closest at that point. Like, I would go see her, and it felt like she was my actual mom, you know, when other times I would go see her, she would come see me, and it just felt like she was just another person, you know. So I would go see her, and sometimes I still wouldn't want to see my dad, so sometimes she would call my dad and be like, come over to see Justin, Justin's here, and I would go see him and stuff like that. So on one day, he came over, they had a lot of stuff, him and Sue and my little brother, so I went down to help them out, and Sue took my little brother upstairs, that's my dad's girlfriend, and me and my dad are on the elevator, and the elevator stops working, so we're stuck in the elevator, you know what I'm saying? It's we're like, oh, the elevator's stuck, it's whatever, and we have some groceries and stuff like that, and some drinks, and 10 minutes go by, and we're still stuck in the elevator. My dad starts freaking out because he's my dad, he'll freak out about anything. 20 minutes goes by, about 30 minutes goes by, we're in there for over an hour. And we're, honestly, it was just one of the greatest times ever, because me and my dad like bonded for the first time in so long. It was amazing. We talked about stuff. I mean, my dad peed on the elevator because he had to go to the bathroom. That was funny. That was really funny. He had beers. He was drinking beers on the elevator because, you know, there was nothing else to do.
Did he at least pee in the bottle?
No, he didn't pee in the bottle. He opened up the rug and peed underneath the rug. It was funny. It was amazing. We pressed the call button. The call button wouldn't work half the time. When it did work, we said, we're stuck in the elevator. Can you get a hold of my mom? And the whole time I'm thinking, I'm worried because I'm worried. My grandma and grandpa would call and check in on me all the time. They would call my mom's. And if I wasn't near the phone, they would freak out. They would come. They would actually drive from Akron to come there to see what I was doing if I wasn't near the phone. It was weird. So my mom was worried too, because she was worried that if I got caught hanging around with my dad, that my grandma and grandpa would stop me from seeing her. You know. So, but it all worked out. We got out of the elevator after a long, long time. It was just a fun time, and a fun story to share. And very fun. Years later, I reenacted that story in drama class and had people rolling all over the floor, so it was fun. So that's a really good memory.
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about November 17th, 2004?
2004, November 17th, 2004. I was still in middle school at the time. I had a few friends. It was a weird day. I got up, did everything normal. Went to school at lunchtime. I didn't eat nothing. Come home from school, turned on the radio. I remember Warren Zevon's Werewolves of London was on. A good song. I enjoy that song. My grandma walks by. She's singing the song. She's really happy for some reason. I don't know why. Then in walks the pastor of my church, Pastor John. Which was weird. He walked into. He didn't come over often. It was weird. So I was like, this is weird. So I was like, maybe he's here to talk to my grandma and grandpa because they had been having problems and he talked to them a while. So then he calls me into the room, and I pretty much already knew what happened right when he called me in. He had told me that my mother had passed away at about 11 o'clock or something like that. And that's basically what had happened. And I just sat there. I didn't say anything. And he kept telling me, and Grandma was asking me if I was alright, and I still wasn't saying much. It was a Wednesday, I remember that. Because after they got done telling me, I was like, well, I gotta go get ready for church. And my grandma was like, well, are you sure that you want to be going? I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. It was just weird. I didn't cry at all until I got to the funeral. Or not the funeral, but the service, moreover. So a bunch of people from church were there. My family was there, which, whatever about them, but a bunch of people. It really helped me that a bunch of people who never even met her who go to my church went there to support me, and that was amazing because that's my real family, the church family. And my buddy Joel was sitting next to me, and he started crying. He'd never met her, and he started crying, and I figured, this guy has never met my mother, just started crying, and I lost it. I just started crying too. It was special, really. So yeah.